West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy with Chef Justice Putnam. Netrootsradio.com.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. À fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
Let's move on to Atlanta. It's easy. Just as we suspected, I did a hot take on this one. The Georgia Court of Appeals, the second highest appellate court in Georgia, has, without even having to be asked by Donald Trump, has decided the issue of whether Judge McAfee back in March properly ruled that Fani Willis should not be disqualified, although he had some pointed language in there against Fani Willis about her testimony and that of Nathan Wade. The odor of mendacity will go down in the annals of history about what he thought was some lying going on in the courtroom that he couldn't get to the bottom of, but kept her on the case after 4 days of excruciating detail that I would like to forget about Nathan Wade, about Fani Willis, about their relationship, about his sex life, about her sex life, and all things that have nothing to do with what we're here for the criminal justice to decide whether Donald Trump is guilty or not of crimes along with 13 other people. But the judge realized that, especially having basically planted the seed for appeal within the order that he entered, and certifying that appeal, that the court would get around to making a decision. Fani Willis, to her credit, I always faulted her a little bit, like she didn't push the issue about getting the case set for trial since March. We're already in June. She never moved. She never had a hearing. She never had a discussion about it. And there was no stay in place until now, but there is one now. And now the three-judge panel randomly selected, 3 judges not from Atlanta, and they're from a very conservative right-wing part of the state, and you can do your own math related to that. 3 white men, have decided that they're going to stay the case, and they don't want any further proceedings going on, certainly not the setting of trial. So there's a pin in the case until they get around to deciding the issue. Now, they've set a October, they must be so busy there about things that matter to our democracy. They just can't get around deciding this case and having oral argument even until October. It doesn't mean actually that they're going to have oral argument in October. It's a control date on their calendar. They will decide as we get closer to October and after full briefing on so there'll be 3 total briefs and a record brought up to them on appeal. They'll let the parties know in advance of October whether they're even going to have oral argument in October. But if they are, and it's likely they're going to, then sometime after that October date and at the end of the term, which happens to be March of 2025, they will enter their ruling. And in the meantime, the entire case is stayed. It's such a sad state of affairs, and we had so much hope and put so much of our eggs in Fani Willis's basket, early on. I mean, she did everything right. And I'm not claiming she didn't do everything right, but she did everything right. Yes, Alvin Bragg broke the glass ceiling there. First to indict, first to prosecute, first to convict. I love that, especially given Alvin Bragg's having taken some unnecessary criticism and pot shots at the very start of his being elected to that office. But Fani Willis, we were, oh my God, she's got him. She's got the goods. She's got the taped phone call. She's got the witnesses. She's got the fake electors cooperating. She's got, she flipped 4 and 3 of them being lawyers from Donald Trump and got theirs, whatever type of cooperation she got. This is a great case. And then this effing circus and soap opera, salacious going through the boudoir of Fani Willis. And some people I know are criticizing her. She brought this on herself. Why did she have to date Nathan Wade? And we've gone ad nauseum here in our positions about whatever she did at her off time is not relevant to her decision to prosecute. The indictment that was brought by a grand jury in Georgia, not Fani Willis, on the recommendations of a special purpose grand jury, not Fani Willis, based on evidence that was presented to them, and then who gets paid when and who has a drink with who after has nothing to do with the administration of justice. And that's where that is. But of course, to these 3 right-wing white guys, this is interesting. And why don't we do what Judge Cannon does and others do and the Supreme Court does, which is kick this can so far down the road that you don't even know what road you're on. And then we'll pick up with it when it really doesn't matter any longer after the election. And if Donald Trump were to win, this case will be inevitably delayed until he's out of office and 88 years old. If he loses, then we'll have to see what happens, whether Fani Willis is still around after these inevitable appeals. I know you have very strong opinions about the original motion to disqualify and how Judge McAfee handled it and then invited this appeal. And so where are you at with all this, Karen?
I mean, yeah, exactly. We're in this was much ado about nothing from the beginning. And this is just a racist, misogynistic double standard that they're applying to Fani Willis and Nathan Wade, who are 2 consenting adults who are people he was a judge, she's an elected prosecutor. And I mean, it was not like there was no conflict at all. And they just went after her. And Judge McAfee, who I actually really like and think he is a really good judge, I think didn't know what to do with it, and he just let it go. He could have, he had the circus of a hearing where there was almost nothing about what the conflict would be, and all about the salacious sex details just to embarrass them. It just had nothing to do with whether or not there was an actual conflict of interest here. Again, they were on the same side of the aisle. There was no prosecutor sleeping with the judge or sleeping with the defense attorney kind of thing. And so therefore there was, some kind of conflict. This is colleagues. And I met my husband in the DA's office. He was 2 years senior to me, but whatever. Now we're married. Like, it happens. And this was a consensual relationship. This was not like a boss and her underling, right? This was, whatever. Anyway, it just frustrates me because the hearing, which I went down a rabbit hole and lost several days of my professional life because I didn't stop watching it because it's televised, partly because I just couldn't believe it was happening the way it was. I just can't believe how much Judge McAfee lost control of that hearing. Like I said, if he needed to have a hearing, I don't think he could have or should have. I don't think there was a conflict at all. But okay, you want to have a hearing to establish that? Focus it on what could cause a conflict, right? What went into the hiring decisions of Nathan Wade? Is he qualified? And again, how about who decided when to pay him? How did you audit his hours? All the kind of things that could maybe perhaps look like a conflict, or at least somehow develop that record, was never developed. They never even talked anything that was remotely about a financial conflict. And I can't imagine what other type of conflict there would be there. But he let that crazy record get made. And then he said, oh, well, there's an appearance of impropriety. I'm not really sure what that is, what the appearance is. Spell it out. He never spelled it out. What is the impropriety? What is the appearance of it? I just don't get it. And it's just, they don't like that there are people having sex, and it's a woman, and they're Black, God forbid, these white guys. Like, it just, I swear to God, this just stinks and reeks of racism and misogyny to high heaven. It really does to me. And here we are. So it's the South, it's the Deep South, and now this case isn't going ever. I mean, I'd be shocked if this case ever goes to trial. Either Donald Trump wins the election and it doesn't go. Also, the presidential immunity decision that we're waiting on from the Supreme Court, that's going to impact the conduct here, of course, too, because whatever standard applies there is going to have to apply here too. So that's going to impact it. And I'm sure if either way, whether he wins or loses, the Georgia governor is potentially going to pardon him. I mean, I know it's not completely up to the governor in Georgia. I know that.
Well, it's not up to the governor at all. It's up to a panel.
Right. But those types of panels are political, and there are people like governors have influence, and you never know. You just never know. They'll either feel sorry for him because he lost the election, he's been punished, or he's been hurt enough, or he won, and so we can't do it. One other open question is going to be what happens to the rest of the 14 defendants who will be left. Some have pled guilty, only a few. And what will happen to those cases, right? What will happen to the guys who have already pled guilty, and what will happen to the other open cases? This impacts all of them, not just Trump. So this case is dead. Don't ever expect this case to go, at least against Donald Trump, in my opinion.
Yeah. I want to just take a look at something about the Board of Pardons and Paroles in Georgia. One of the reasons that, just so people know, that most governors are able to do what Karen outlined, which is to pardon. Like, there's been pressure on Governor Hochul here in New York to, including by some Democrats, which was bizarre, to pardon Trump for the good of the country. Not happening. But in other states that have had frequent corruption at the governor level, they've taken away the right of the governor to do that, because Georgia had some corruption issues where people were paid bribes and governors were paid bribes. And for people to think that stuff doesn't happen, it's not directly at the intersection of law and politics, but there is a federal case that's going on right now that while the jury was deliberating, a federal case about the misuse of COVID funds to the tune of $30, $40, $50 million. One of the jurors got delivered in a gift bag to her home $150,000 in cash, with a note that said, "There's more where that comes from if you vote to acquit." This is not a John Grisham novel, although it sounds like it. It just happened in federal court. Somebody thought it was appropriate. And, you got to think, I'm thinking when Trump heard that, like, is that a thing? Could I have done that? And no, it's not a thing. And that now they're talking about dismissing the jury and starting all over again and looking into the crimes that were committed and trying to influence and tamper with the jury by flashing cash. But there's been that historically, organized crime, we've had the murder of jurors in this country. So when we talk about doing your civic duty, it's not without risk, which is why we're so hot and bothered on this Legal AF and on Midas Touch about the protection of the criminal justice system and jurors and all of that, and prosecutors like Phony Willis from being pilloried and excoriated and crucified by what ends up being right-wing MAGA, and therefore delaying what everybody of every stripe and every political leaning should want, which is a public justice system that tries our people, regardless of what their political position was or what their presidential position was, but tries them in public so that we know whether they are guilty or innocent, and we know that information before we have to pull the lever for them.
It is Tuesday, the 11th of June of 2024, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam. Gunner the English Bulldog is our snoozing sous chef. Precious, the little Yorkie, she's limping around a little bit, and we're going to have to probably take her into the vets. But she's laying right next to the console here at the mothership. so the rest of us will be seating you directly for our especially special daily special Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays, a small scant dash, a mere pinch of hot smoked Hungarian paprika will make all the difference in the world. It always has and it always will. Yes, indeed, our little precious has been under the weather. I put her back on the minoxidil, the analgesic medicine for pain. I had thought that maybe the side effects from the minoxidil had made her listless and whatnot. Well, she's not. For me, she hasn't been bleeding out her stools. It's looked, well, I'm not going to get into it, but her stool hasn't seemed untoward, let's put it that way. But now she's kind of limping about. We were getting her scheduled at some point to have the other knee operated on because little Yorkshire Terriers have this genetic predisposition that their patellas get dislodged and are pointed out, and it can be a bit painful for them, a bit. But she's kind of limping around, so I don't know if it's the one that she had operated on or the one that is going to be, because it was not nearly as bad as the ones that she did have operated on. So we'll see. She's been a little wavery back there, but I've only had her back on the minoxidil since yesterday, so we'll see how she fares. But I'm going to put a call into the vet. Nothing happens quick, of course. So let's get to it then. Yes, indeed. You know, this Georgia appellate court, I think that we can surmise, or not surmise, I think that it's just a given that, you know, they are just exactly as they were described. Okay, Southern court full of white guys and a black lady having sex with a big book. I you know, these guys think like that. I mean, God, look at the Alitos. They live on a lagoon. What's up with that? Lagoon. Whenever I hear lagoon, first thing that comes to mind is a gated community with one of those man-made lakes. Some people call them marinas. Other people call them lagoons. That says everything you need to know about this lady's Spanish Inquisition. I'm from Germany, and I've come to Inquisition you in Spain. You terrible, terrible people, you southern coast people. Germans are really upset at everybody who lives, in the sun. Just letting you know. Okay. So those southern sun worshippers in Rome, I know. English type accent in a German sort of, it doesn't work. But, Martha Ann, yeah, she let that be known too. Now, Laura Windsor's going to take a lot of heat, because how dare she go undercover and bait them? You don't have to bait them. What I want to know is that they'll tell people, they won't talk to a journalist, okay? Right? They won't talk to a journalist. They won't testify under oath in a court or in a congressional Senate hearing. Oh, no. But they'll just let out their heart's desire to anybody else there holding a martini glass. Clink, clink. I'm telling you. No wonder the Russians were able to take over that whole party so easily. And currency is currency. All right? Thomas got bought off with RVs or whatnot. The Alitos got bought off with this BS about their, religious sanctimony being superior to everybody else's, because that's what religious sanctimony is by definition. I have some religious sanctimony too. And I have mentioned this before. I am a temporarily embarrassed poet, philosopher, king, and it's been going on my whole life. Just letting you know. So I have a lot of experience at it. And part of being even a temporarily embarrassed poet, philosopher, king is knowing that your personal predilections is not the best thing for everybody else in the realm. Okay? Now, if you think that people are playthings, if you think that they are lessers or, I don't know, something weird on the social pecking order of existence, well, maybe it might be tough for you to live with your neighbors to the point where you might want to take violent action against them. And I'm glad they let us know about that too. And I think Laura Windsor for that too. Okay? Now, this isn't Laura Windsor's first rodeo. She's been showing up at Coke events, Coke Brother, Coke Company events. And boy, these people just love to let out their hearts. And look at Maria Butina, how easy it was for her, except she wasn't doing journalism, was she? Nope. She was laundering Russian rubles through the National Rifle Association and the whole of the GOP. That's why it's so hard for the DOJ to really embrace the totality, or be, when I say embrace, it's tough to be able to follow this investigation because it's not a conspiracy. Please. Why would all of these Russia investigations be shut down on every single level? I do believe they may be going on now, but they got a cap. I'm sorry. Just the level of corruption is just, Another one of those instances where, we're thrust into this terrible position of, I told you so. While the world burns around us and they're looking to us saying, it's your fault for not stopping us. Thank you very much. Yeah, it is. It's our fault for not stopping you. But we like to play by the rules, don't we? And that's how we get ourselves in trouble, I suppose. My dad totally defended Al Gore for going up there and gaveling the session and putting the vote over there so that George Bush could steal the election with the help of the Supreme Court. Because if that count had kept on, Al Gore would have picked up enough votes to get Florida, and things would have been different. But they didn't want things to be different. No, they didn't want things to be different for democracy. Well, they did. They got something different, all right. They've given us something very different. Jeez. Okay. Do I rant further? No, I better not, because that was a long opening there, and I thought it was important that we remember what's going on with that case, because that was a slam dunk. We got the tapes, and everybody in the world heard the tapes. Yeah, but we can't have it now because that woman has to wear a scarlet letter. Does she now? Independent Jezebel. Jeez. Yeah, Martha Ann's into the feminazi thing, I guess she's listened to Rush Limbaugh a little bit in her lifetime, huh? I mean, that guy's been dead for a while, and she's still on the feminazi BS? Come on, lady, update your lingo. No wonder her neighbors called her the C word. Jeez. And I gotta say, after listening to Martha Ann, if I was Alito, I might blame her for a few things too. Like, hey, that wasn't me, that was her. And now we know why he's saying that, because, jeez. Well, like I said, behind every wacko lunatic right-wing Nazi is the little lady. growing off of his shoulder. Yeah. Oblique reference to Frank Zappa. Billy was a mountain. All right. So, hey, let us now give you what we have in store for you in the rest of this salon that we call West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. And you're in the Bistro Cafe right now. Yeah. And as we make our journey, I suppose I should remind folks, the chef's table is on the way to the Speakeasy. That's why we stop there towards the end, because, you know, get a little bit of food sustenance into you before you let loose. So, but we have a little repast, a few morsels. We do it differently here in America, okay? We get the salad first, the amuse-bouche last. You're like, don't look at me, it's just, it's America. Anyway, as we are now at the Bistro Cafe, what do we have on the menu here? Well, Voting Technology Smartmatic subpoenaed 4 Fox Corporation board members as part of its $2.7 billion defamation lawsuit against Fox News. Actually, that's a big one. Watch this. A Federalist Society judge in Texas, and we know which one because they judge shop and they get this guy, starts with a K, halted a federal disaster aid program for minority farmers because it discriminated against white farmers. Well, women were involved too, so, you know. Okay. And the bipartisan Wisconsin Elections Commission unanimously chose a Democratic member as chair for the next 2 years. And actually, she was the previous chair too, or the current chair. They elected her again unanimously. Wisconsin. Okay, after the break, we move to the chef's table where Czech authorities suspect that Russia was behind last week's attempt to set Prague public transport buses on fire. I guess that should be. Public transportation buses on fire. Who edited this? Somebody at the AP. And Hungary Prime Minister Orban's party showed its weakest performance in European Union elections since joining the bloc 20 years ago. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. Once again, we are going to tuck right into this first offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. And it is out of the Washington Post by Jeremy Barr. Voting technology company Smartmatic subpoenaed 4 Fox Corporation members yesterday, Monday, as part of its $2.7 billion defamation lawsuit against Fox News over its coverage of the 2020 election. The move follows a decision earlier this year by a New York judge ordering Fox to turn over relevant documents from the 4 board members, Ann Diaz, Jacques Nasser, Chase Carey, and Roland A. Hernandez, as Smartmatic had requested. The decision represented a victory for Smartmatic, which has argued that the 4 board members are relevant to the case the company is trying to make, that executives at Fox News the executives at Fox knew that claims of election fraud made by Trump allies were false, but did nothing to stop the network's coverage out of a desire to protect the company's business fortunes. Well, some might argue that that's their whole reason for being. Smartmatic has also claimed the board members are relevant because they have a close proximity to the Murdochs. The board members witnessed Rupert and Lachlan Murdoch's control of Fox News, exchanged relevant emails that Smartmatic has used in depositions and will mark as trial exhibits, attended meetings during and after Fox News broadcast the defamatory publications, and discussed the 2020 election and the competitive threats Fox News faced to its brands. Like Dominion suing them also before what happened there. Yeah. And that was in the deposition, I believe, that the lawyers wrote. Well, the lawyers wrote that to the judge, David B. Cohen, earlier this year. Okay. In particular, Smartmatic flagged specific meetings that board members had attended, conversations they participated in, and documents they received that the company viewed as important for their case. All right. A big step forward. Maybe we'll hear about it. Next offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays, also comes out of the Washington Post, this time by Julian Mark and Aaron Gregg. A federal judge in Texas has blocked an Agriculture Department disaster relief program from giving preferences to minority and female farmers, siding with a group of plaintiffs who allege that the program illegally discriminates against white male farmers. Yeah, you heard that one right. They've been trying that BS here in Oregon, and it's been working pretty good for them, too, for quite a while. In an order filed on Friday in the Northern District of Texas, Judge Matthew J. Kaczmarek found that the program probably violated the plaintiff's equal protection rights under the Constitution. Kaczmarek, appointed by Trump, wrote that the Department of Agriculture is enjoined from providing relief to farmers based on its socially disadvantaged farmer or rancher designation, which he said funneled a greater share of aid to farmers identifying as Black, American Indian, Latino, Asian, Pacific Islander, as well as women, he spit out disdainfully. I added that part, but that's what he means. All those are disdainful parts of our world. We have to minimize their existence, if not eradicate them altogether. Yeah, well, that's what eliminationists, Opus Dei freaks like the Alitos believe. Well, enough editorializing. Back to the article at hand. The injunction comes after a pair of judges in June of 2021 blocked a Biden administration program that provided debt relief to farmers of color. Congress altered the program after those court orders, granting relief based on economic need instead of race. Well, the Agriculture Department declined to comment, citing department policy not to comment on pending litigation. The injunction is the latest legal blow against government programs that give preferences to women and minorities amid a wave of legal challenges to the diversity programs spanning the private and public sectors. In other words, The only lawfare that's being used is the one that's being used for the last several decades by the Federalist Society, the Heritage Foundation, funded by the Petersons, the DeVosses, et al. Bauer at the Associated Press brings us this final offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. The same Democrat? I didn't edit this. Scott Bauer's editor at the AP edited this. I'll start over. The same Democrat who led the Wisconsin Elections Commission during the contested 2020 presidential election will be back in the helm in the swing state this year after being unanimously elected yesterday, Monday, by the bipartisan panel. Ann Jacobs was the only commission member nominated to serve as chair, reprising the role she had from 2020 to 2022. The unanimous vote included one from a Republican commissioner who attempted to cast Wisconsin's electoral votes for Trump in 2020, even though Trump lost the state. The 6-member commission administers and enforces Wisconsin election laws. That 6-member commission does. But elections are run locally by more than 1,800 clerks in towns, villages, cities, and counties. State law requires that the chair of the commission alternate between a Republican and a Democrat every 2 years. Jacobs, in a post on Twitter following the election as chair, said she recognizes Wisconsin's outsized role in this year's presidential election and said she was confident in the work of many clerks and elections commission staff in making this our strongest election ever. Oh, that was nice. Jacobs, in her role as chair, will approve the vote canvass following elections and certifies results, including the upcoming presidential election. But of course, since she's a Democratic member and voter, we don't count because we're already biased against crooks, criminals, traitors, seditionists, and insurrectionists. Yes, we are. But I don't know. Can we be friends? Apparently, according to the Alitos, we can't. So what's left? All right. You know that we'll be fair. But we'll be on the lookout for all of those named above. All right, let's get to our break. And when we get back from that break, we will go through weather from around the world, and we will finish up with the stories that we've curated for you today. And that's the royal we, as we all know. You were listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You were listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This program is presented by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Welcome to A Cup of Health with CDC, a weekly feature of the MMWR, the Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report. I'm your host, Dr. Robert Gaines. Arthritis affects more than 1 in 5 adults and is the most common cause of disability in the United States. Dr. Camille Barber is a researcher with CDC's National Center for Chronic Disease Prevention and Health Promotion. He's joining us today to discuss ways to control arthritis. Welcome to the show, Camille.
Thank you.
Camille, are there different types of arthritis?
Yes, there are over 100 types. The most common types are osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, gout, and fibromyalgia.
What are the symptoms of arthritis?
Arthritis, which is joint inflammation, can result in pain, stiffness, and swelling in the joints.
Does arthritis affect some people more than others?
Yes, it affects primarily the elderly. It also affects people with chronic conditions such as heart disease, diabetes, and obesity. And it's also much higher in women compared to men.
What are some strategies for managing arthritis pain?
Now, adults with arthritis may be reluctant to engage in physical activity because of the symptoms that they have, such as joint pain and stiffness. However, we know that there are low-impact types of physical activities, such as walking and swimming, that have been shown to improve function and reduce pain in adults with arthritis. There are also self-management programs that, in addition to these physical activity programs, have different ways to maintain weight and other ways to control your arthritis symptoms.
How can people reduce their risk of developing arthritis?
So as I said earlier, osteoarthritis is the most common type of arthritis, and the best way to reduce your chances of developing it is to maintain a normal weight and avoid joint injury.
Camille, where can listeners get more information about arthritis, including the self-management program?
Listeners can go to cdc.gov/arthritis.
Thanks, Camille. I've been talking today with CDC's Dr. Camille Barber about ways to control the pain caused by arthritis. Remember, although there's no cure, arthritis can be controlled through medical treatment, regular exercise, and weight maintenance. If you suffer from arthritis, talk to a healthcare provider about programs to manage your condition. Until next time, be well. This is Dr. Robert Gaines for A Cup of Health with CDC.
For the most accurate health information, visit www.cdc.gov or call 1-800-CDC-INFO. This program is presented by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
For older adults, optimal aging includes preventing injuries, effectively managing existing chronic conditions, and maintaining physical and cognitive health and social engagement. I'm Dr. Linda Anderson, Director of CDC's Healthy Aging Program. The promotion of cognitive health is a critical component of overall good health. Cognitive health among older adults is not just the absence of disease. It's the development and preservation of cognitive abilities such as memory, language, judgment, and remembered skills such as driving. Cognitive abilities enable individuals to maintain social connectedness, an ongoing sense of purpose, and the ability to function independently. In 2013, CDC and the Alzheimer's Association released the second in a series of roadmaps. This roadmap, the Public Health Roadmap for State and National Partnerships 2013 to 2018, was developed as part of CDC's Healthy Brain Initiative. It reflects the insights and expertise of a wide range of stakeholders at the national, state, and community levels. The roadmap shares the Healthy Brain Initiative's vision of cognitive health as a vital component of overall health and well-being, an area ripe for public health efforts. Specific actions are addressed in 4 traditional domains of public health. The first is monitor and evaluate. tracking the health of the nation is a fundamental public health function. Actions in this area include assessments related to cognitive health that help quantify and qualify the public health impact and inform public health policies and strategies. The second domain is Educate and Empower the Nation, which focuses on actions that raise public awareness and improve access to information and resources. The third domain, Develop Policy and Mobilize Partnerships, includes actions aimed at ensuring that cognitive health is integrated into a broad spectrum of public health work. The fourth area, Assure a Competent Workforce, focuses on preparing public health professionals to translate current and emerging findings on cognitive health into effective public health practice. This roadmap provides a solid foundation for the public health community to anticipate and respond as new scientific discoveries related to cognitive health emerge. Public health agencies and partners are encouraged to work together on actions that best fit their mission, needs, interests, and capabilities. For more information, please visit cdc.gov/aging/healthybrain.
For the most accurate health information, visit www.cdc.gov or call 1-800-CDC-INFO.
Hi, it's Tom. Could we humbly suggest your donation to netrootsradio.com? All we've got to run this 24-hour powerhouse of progressive resistance radio is what comes out of our own wallets. And you are our biggest donor. And it doesn't take much, $3, $5. Just go to the bottom of our netrootsradio.com page and hit our secure donate button. Heck, you can even make a recurring contribution, and you'll get a wondiferous pair of Netroots radio stickers for application to your backpack, your bumper sticker, or your banjo. Well, it's up to you which backpack you want to put it on. So donate what you'd like at the bottom of our netrootsradio.com's homepage, because you are our biggest donor. netrootsradio.com. Together, we are Resistance Radio.
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government by and for the people. Colorado's governor signed a bill June 6th implementing several election administration changes which local election officials supported. But a late amendment may have neutralized an open primary and ranked choice voting initiative before the voters in November. Among the SB 210 election administration changes were modifying rules on drop boxes, third-party candidate qualification, mail-in voting tweaks, and several other housekeeping changes. A ballot initiative backed by Colorado Voters First, which proposes a top 4 single-ballot open primary system using ranked choice voting, is likely to appear on Colorado's ballot in November. The proposal is similar to Alaska's, where all candidates, regardless of party, appear on one primary ballot and the top 4 advance to the general election. But the Colorado Sun reports that in early May, an amendment was added to SB 210, which would stop implementation of the Colorado Voters First initiative should it pass, and instead set up a ranked choice voting pilot in certain counties for local elections before rolling it out for statewide or federal elections. In his signing statement supporting the bill, Governor Jared Polis expressed distaste for the amendment. If the initiative passes, he promises an executive order convening election officials to implement top 4 open primary and ranked choice voting as expediently as possible. Read the bill and the governor's statement at AmericanDemocracyMinute.org. I'm Brian Beal.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1974. That was the day workers at the Dodge truck plant in Warren, Michigan, went out on a wildcat strike. Workers were fed up with the endless attacks from management and disappointing contract negotiations the year before. Wildcat strikes had become almost commonplace in Detroit area auto plants the previous summer. Arbitrary discipline, deteriorating working conditions, and frustration with the union's response all led to the 3-day walkout. 10 days earlier, 100 workers had staged a sit-in over working conditions. When the company threatened firings, more workers dropped their tools. Now, 4 had been fired, including the second shift chief steward. The response was immediate. Within an hour, the plant was virtually shut down. 6,000 workers voted to continue the strike. Wildcat leaders noted that virtually all the routine antagonisms among workers, young versus old, black versus white, women versus men, had melted away in solidarity. Socialist and anarchist workers in the plant published their recollections in a commemorative pamphlet entitled Wildcat, Dodge Truck, June 1974. In it, they state, quote, "We were excited by the collective decision of thousands of Chrysler employees to deny the authority of daily wage labor and, for even 4 days, to say no to the demands of the alarm clock, the production line, bosses, union bureaucrats, judges, and cops. It was, in fact, a total frustration with and rejection of all the things inside and outside the plant which exercise control over our lives." By the time it was over, 30 strikers had been arrested. Strike leaders were branded as communist agitators by the union, and area judges issued injunctions to end the picketing. The Wildcat may have failed, but workers had pushed back against management offensives.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. We always begin weather from around the world along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon, on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 63 degrees Fahrenheit. Very sunny conditions throughout the day and will be hot. Around, low to mid 90s is what we're expecting. Well, it could be a tad warmer here at the mothership, at least parts. Winds will be out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Clear skies tonight with lows in the mid 50s with winds out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Then mainly sunny tomorrow with highs near the mid to upper 80s, so a little bit of a cooling trend. We'll see how that fares out. Winds out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Grass pollen remains rated very high. The air quality index is in the good range, though it has ticked up a couple of notches to 23 parts per million. And that daytime UV index is very high and has notched down one level to level 8. Oh my, well, you better take care anyway. Slather on the SPF. Barometric pressure is holding steady at 30.06 inches. Visibility is at 9 miles and relative humidity is down to 64%. Oh my. Drying out. Well, weather from around the world is brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world, and that is the Weather Underground. London is 60 degrees and cloudy. Paris is 61 and partly cloudy with a thunderstorm advisory. Rome is 83 and fair. Kabul is 73 and clear. Hong Kong is 75 and clear. Tokyo is 73 and fair. Auckland, New Zealand, because my friends bugged out of Australia, and you know why. If you don't, your suspicions would be correct. And so we will be giving weather reports from New Zealand, because it's in that part of the world now, isn't it? It is. Well, Auckland, New Zealand is 54 degrees and mostly cloudy. San Francisco, California is 58 and fair. Chicago, Illinois is 66 and sunny. And New York, New York is 70 degrees Fahrenheit and mostly cloudy. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world. Staff at the World Desk of the Associated Press brings us this first amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. Czech authorities suspect that Russia may have been behind last week's attempt to set Prague public transport buses on fire. Prime Minister Petr Fiala said yesterday, Monday, a 26-year-old suspect was arrested on Saturday and charged with terrorism in connection with Thursday's failed arson attack. The suspect, who is from Latin America, faces up to life in prison if convicted. There's a suspicion that the attack was likely organized and financed from Russia, Fiala said. He said the failed attempt was likely part of Russia's hybrid war against his country. You know there's one against us also. We know. I'm preaching to the choir. But this corroborates it. He said the attempt was part of Russia's repeated effort to undermine the trust of citizens in our state. Czechia is a staunch supporter of Ukraine that is fighting Russia's invasion. Czech leaders said in 2021 that they had evidence pointing to the participation of 2 agents from Russia's military spy agency in a 2014 explosion that killed 2 people. Russia has denied any involvement. Following Thursday's arson attack, Interior Minister Vít Rakusin suggested that similar attacks might be planned in other European countries, but declined to give more details. Police boosted security in the capital over the weekend due to the case amid the European Parliament election. Justin Spike at the World Desk of the Associated Press brings us today's final amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. The day after Hungarians voted in the European Parliament elections, Prime Minister Viktor Orban's government declared a big win, but missing from the victory speeches was an acknowledgement that it was his party's worst performance in an EU election since Hungary joined the bloc 20 years ago. The lackluster showing can largely be attributed to the emergence of a new political force in Hungary. Peter Magyar, a former insider in Orban's Fidesz KDNP coalition, who broke with the party and declared his intention to build a popular movement to defeat Orban and sweep away his autocratic system. 11 of Hungary's 21 delegates to the EU's legislature will come from Fidesz, more than any of its domestic competitors, after tallying 44% of Sunday's vote. The government said the result clearly signals overwhelming support for Orbán's hard-right nationalism. Nonetheless, Fidesz has never performed so poorly in a European Union election since it joined in 2004. Votes for the party were down sharply from its 52% support in the 2019 polls, and it lost 2 of its European Parliament seats. Magyar's new party, Respected Freedom, otherwise known as TISA, won nearly 30% of the vote on Sunday, earning 7 delegates to the EU legislature. He has said the election would propel his movement into a stronger position to challenge and defeat Orbán in the next national ballot scheduled for 2026. Magyar campaigned less on a specific party program than a structural critique of Orbán's system, which he characterized as rife with corruption, nepotism, intimidation, and propaganda. Well, that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day, but you do know Netroots Radio broadcasts on, and we will meet up here tomorrow for Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. So do stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day and all night for all the breaking news as it breaks, and we will meet up here tomorrow. And we will, because we'll have quite a bit to say about Hunter Biden's conviction on all charges. So do stay tuned to Netroots Radio, and we will meet up here tomorrow, right here in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. À fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goer. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair. T'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver.